Okay, so starting off today's show, I want to ask you guys a simple question. And that question is, who do you guys think should be the New England Patriots starting quarterback week one of the NFL season? Should it be Jarrett Stidham? Should it be Cam Newton? Should it be Andy Dalton? And I totally understand Andy Dalton just signed with the Dallas Cowboys, but I just wanted to say, for this segment, I thought Andy Dalton could have been a pretty solid fit in New England. So even though he's in Dallas, I want to go over a little bit of what would have happened if he would have signed with New England and if the Patriots made a mistake or the right move not signing him or other. And the first name that really comes to mind in terms of other is Brian Hoyer. But I don't think really anyone is going to want to see Brian Hoyer be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots week one. So when the offseason did start, right, many people didn't expect the Patriots to even need a starting quarterback. Everyone's line of thinking was that Tom Brady was just going to stay in New England. There was writing on the wall that many people just elected to ignore, including myself. But when you have such an iconic player, and I know we've seen Joe Montana, Emmitt Smith, guys like that change teams before, but it's even tough with knowing history for anyone to imagine Tom Brady in a uniform that isn't a New England Patriot uniform. And even though that was very tough, it's going to be a reality whenever we do start this upcoming football season. And as you know by now, Tom Brady said goodbye to a place where he was for 2 decades. He'd been to 9 Super Bowls. He'd won 6 of them. And he elects to go to sunny Florida and join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll be in the same offense along with his old pal Rob Gronkowski. He'll have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate and Ronald Jones, and he'll be coached by Bruce Arians. On defense, you have the guy who led the NFL in sacks last season in Shaq Barrett. You still have Jason Pierre-Paul. You still have Devin White, who was a top 10 pick in 2019. So there are a lot of names here, and this is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that now has very high expectations. Their expectations will now, I guess, be Super Bowl or bust, and things may have changed for me at least when they got Gronk, but I really like the pieces on this team, and the reason why I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be very successful isn't only because they have Tom Brady, and it just really is about the weapons they have around him and the fact that all they need is just solid quarterback play, I think, in order to be successful. And when you look at Tom Brady's whole career, under his standard, playoffs are a given. It is something new, and I don't know how high your expectations are, but let's be real here. If Tom Brady's team doesn't make the playoffs, the season is considered to be a big-time, legit success. And over his whole career, Brady's career has been judged by basically a check or an X. A check if he wins the Super Bowl, and an X if he doesn't. So we'll see if Tampa Bay and the new team Tom Brady's on goes right away from having big expectations. And this was a team that, keep in mind, was 7-9 last year, and now they have big-time Super Bowl expectations. The team Tom Brady left, though, the New England Patriots, I don't necessarily know what their expectations are, because you could tell me that they go 5-11 and aren't any good and miss the playoffs, kind of like the Golden State Warriors in the NBA this past season. You could tell me that they could get a wild card spot and win a couple games and make the playoffs, or you could tell me that they could win the AFC East. I think any of those 3 options are possibilities. And right now, I don't really know how I feel about it. As I just said, I would be pretty shocked, and I think I'd be pretty confident in saying that it would be a very disappointing season if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers miss the playoffs. But for the New England Patriots, I don't know what exactly their expectations are, and I don't know what exactly their expectations should be. Right now, on paper, you would think that the Buffalo Bills are a better team, but there are questions at quarterback, and everything did go right for them last year. The question now is, can that occur again? Also, how many times, and I know it's different when Brady isn't there, but how many times have we said over the past couple of years that this is the team in the AFC East that is finally coming to get the New England Patriots? In all those other years, though, most Patriot fans would just laugh. But this year, if you say the Buffalo Bills are winning the AFC East, there are a lot of Patriot fans that would believe it. The Buffalo Bills were a tough team last year and got better by picking up Stephon Diggs. And then inside their own division, Tom Brady is no longer there. Now, Bill Belichick could still be kryptonite. I get that. But what will the Patriots look like this year with Bill Belichick coaching? However, Tom Brady is not under center. If I had to guess right now on what the New England Patriots will do this season, I'd say 9-7 and make the playoffs, because you also add that seventh playoff spot. But making the playoffs is really no guarantee. It is a very realistic possibility that the New England Patriots miss the playoffs. But even though the Pats did lose some key defensive pieces like Jamie Collins, who ended up going to Detroit, and Kyle Van Noy, who ended up going to Miami, they still do have a very talented defense. We have to see what steps guys like Chase Winovich is going to make. Lawrence Guy is a sneaky underrated player who actually made the All-Decade team. I feel like he's a guy that not a lot of people around the National Football League appreciate. And in the secondary, you still have the reigning Defensive Player of the Year in Stephon Gilmore, and veterans like the McCourtys and Patrick Chung. So the New England Patriots have talent on defense. And I'm really not concerned about the defense. We saw that last year. They were really good. I know at the beginning of the season, they were drawing comparisons to some of the best defenses of all time. Personally, I never really believed that. But at the same time, I do think this is one of the better defenses in football that, with competent quarterback play, could win some games. But where you do have to be concerned about, though, is the offense. And really, for the first time in 2 decades, the offense is going to be a concern in Foxborough. Center David Andrews is coming off a life-changing situation with the blood clots, and now he's back. Former first-round pick Isaiah Wynn needs to be able to stay healthy, and they did franchise tag starting guard Joe Thuney. So you have some pieces on the offensive line, but you also have some question marks. Marcus Cannon and Shaq Mason are both solid on the right side, but is David Andrews going to be able to return to form? Is Isaiah Wynn going to stay healthy, and is he going to be able to take that next step? And that offensive line is more important than ever this year, because you saw last year when Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time, played with a bad offensive line, the offense as a whole was just, I think, very out of sync. I think Brady still has something left in the tank, and last year, the main reason why the Pats offense didn't succeed was because of bad line play and targets struggling to get open. So the offensive line is more important than ever, and their offensive line coach, Dante Scarnecchia, actually retired, and that's a big, big loss. If you know the New England Patriots, you also know that Dante Scarnecchia is a very underrated name in that organization and has been a very underrated name in the whole Patriot dynasty for the whole 2000s. But for that offensive line, the most important unit this year, I think, is that, and it will dictate what will happen behind them, because whoever the quarterback is, their play is going to ride a lot about the offensive line, and also your running back, Sony Michel, James White, and Rex Burkhead. I think in order for New England to be successful, they need to do something that they really couldn't do last year, and that is get the running game going. So when I see the quarterback position, who do I think is going to be under center week 1? I'd say the only other guy not named Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, or Jarrett Stidham that comes to mind is Brian Hoyer. But if I was a Patriot fan, I really wouldn't want that. Brian Hoyer is a career backup. If Jarrett Stidham is the starter, Hoyer could be there to help and mentor, and he knows the system. But I do think if Brian Hoyer sees the field this year for any extended amount of time, then that is going to be a big, big problem for the New England Patriots. Brian Hoyer isn't a starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League, and if Jarrett Stidham can't beat out Brian Hoyer for the starting quarterback job, then this Patriot team is in big, big trouble, because Stidham has to be feeling pretty good about himself after the draft. The Patriots didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't take Jordan Love or Jacob Eason or Jalen Hurts or Jake Fromm, and some of the guys that were possibly being talked about getting drafted by New England, they didn't take. It's pretty ironic also, because the Jets, their AFC East Division rival, actually drafted James Morgan, the quarterback out of Florida Atlantic, who New England showed interest in as well, and we know the New York Jets have their hopefully franchise starting quarterback in Sam Darnold. So the New England Patriots didn't draft a quarterback. If they really wanted someone or their guy in this draft, I feel like they would have found a way to get him. We all knew that Justin Herbert nor Tua was ever going to be falling to them. So for Jarrett Stidham, if I was him after this draft, I'd actually be feeling pretty good about myself. You know that Cam Newton is still on the market, but I don't think the New England Patriots are going with Cam Newton. He's been a guy that's been on the market for a while now. The one name I did consider was Andy Dalton, who got cut from the Cincinnati Bengals, and there were also some rumblings that he may be going to Jacksonville, as well as his former offensive coordinator, Jay Gruden, ended up going to Jacksonville. And I thought Bill Belichick could take a flyer on Andy Dalton. Andy was a very good quarterback in this league, and he did make a few Pro Bowls. And he actually ended up signing with Dallas, and we're going to get to that in the next segment when we talk about who right now would be your favorite to win the NFC East between Dallas or Philly. But looking between those options, I did have it pretty even between Stidham and Dalton because Bill Belichick's offense was focused on a lot of short passes, good fundamental routes, and I think those were things that Andy Dalton could do. I totally understood that the next goal for the New England Patriots should be to find their next franchise quarterback. But if you put Andy Dalton on this team, he won't really have to do everything in order for them to win games. And it also depends on what Bill Belichick really does think of Jarrett Stidham. However, obviously the Andy Dalton stuff is thrown right down the drain because he ended up signing with the Dallas Cowboys. Going back to Cam, though, we don't know what kind of Cam Newton we're getting. We do know that when he's healthy, he's a former MVP, but that Super Bowl season was Super Bowl 50, and that's a couple years ago now. This upcoming season is going to be Super Bowl 55. Since that MVP Super Bowl season, he's had a nasty foot injury, he's had a nasty shoulder injury, and it's a lot of risks. In terms of the Bengals, they needed a franchise quarterback. If Bill Belichick has any doubt about Jarrett Stidham and doesn't believe in him, I think he should have signed Andy Dalton because I did think that Andy Dalton was a guy that could win games with this roster. However, if that didn't work, which it didn't because Dalton didn't sign with New England, it looks like Jarrett Stidham is going to play. There's a reason why Jarrett Stidham is still on this roster and Bill Belichick didn't draft or bring in anyone else besides a career backup like Brian Hoyer. Bill Belichick obviously likes Stidham to some extent, and he should be given time to play this year. If I thought Cam would be an MVP again, I'd be calling for him to sign with New England. I don't think Andy Dalton was an MVP, but I did think he was a guy that could manage games, which Tom Brady did a lot last year, and Jarrett Stidham is still an unknown. So the 2020 New England Patriots, I think, are a team that when you look at them, could win a decent amount of games with mediocre to not great quarterback play. Because you look at their defense, it's still a top unit. I think their offensive line on paper looks better. It should hopefully be improved with Andrews and Wynn back. Hopefully their weapons, mostly N'Keal Harry, gets better also. And this year is going to be very important for the quarterback position, especially in New England. It's going to be interesting to see if Jarrett Stidham has an okay so-so year or it just doesn't work out, and period, what Bill Belichick thinks of him and what exactly his plan would be going forward. I really can't wait to see next year at the draft which teams think they may have a chance to take a quarterback and make a move. Because in the AFC, the Jaguars you have, unless Gardner Minshew really emerges, the Patriots you have, if Jarrett Stidham doesn't emerge, the Chargers took Justin Herbert, the Dolphins just took Tua, and you have some other teams that sit there and tell you that they have their guy, but really don't. Now, I don't think anyone in the AFC East besides New England will be looking for a quarterback next year. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. The Browns have Baker Mayfield. Maybe the Steelers, but they're in a position to win right now. So it's going to be really interesting to see what New England ends up doing at the quarterback position. Also, the Bengals just drafted Joe Burrow. The Steelers, as I just said, the Texans have Deshaun Watson, and I don't think they believe in Ryan Tannehill long-term. And the Colts may be in the market for a quarterback, but they just drafted Jacob Eason. Denver thinks Drew Lock is the guy. Maybe they could be looking for a quarterback next season, but I think it would kind of have to be a real disaster in order for them to do so. Then you'll go to the NFC. The Eagles and Cowboys have their guy. Maybe the Redskins have a chance to look at their quarterback. Green Bay and Minnesota are set. Maybe the Bears. Maybe the Lions move on from Stafford. Personally, I think if Drew Brees does retire at the end of the season, I think Jameis Winston's going to be the Saints quarterback, but maybe they could go for maybe they could draft one. Atlanta has Matt Ryan. The Buccaneers have Tom Brady. The Panthers just signed Teddy Bridgewater. The Seahawks have Russell Wilson. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. The Rams have Jared Goff, and it'll be very tough to move out of that contract. The 49ers have Jimmy Garoppolo. So there are some teams that you could potentially see taking a quarterback, but there's not many teams that you could say right now are definitely taking a quarterback. So maybe next year the Patriots can trade up in the draft and draft Trevor Lawrence, or they could be really bad and just be in place for that guy already. So I don't think that will happen, but you never know. And I look at this for next year and for this upcoming season, I thought Andy Dalton should have been the guy for New England, and I thought he should have been a guy that New England really does possibly go after. And That's, I think, the case if it doesn't work out for Jarrett Stidham, but I think there's still also a chance that he could be the guy. Once again, there's a reason why Bill Belichick decided to keep this guy around as really what it looks like right now, the top option, because he had to have some idea that Tom Brady wasn't going to be coming back. So I'm going to ask you guys, who do you think should be the New England Patriots starting quarterback next season? Because I think there is really one main option they could go in right now that Andy Dalton has signed with the Dallas Cowboys, now that the draft is over. I don't think Cam Newton would be a great cause. I don't think he'd be a great fit. So it is looking like right now Jarrett Stidham is going to be the Week 1 starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. And I don't think he has to be some kind of MVP quarterback in order for New England to win games. They have one of the better defenses in the league. If they just have Stidham play mistake-free football, be effective and efficient, have the defense take over games, I actually think next season in New England could be looking pretty good.